Hi, Councillor Sarah Jones, Cabinet Member for the Economy and Joint Deputy Leader.
Afternoon, everybody. I'm Lisa Dimmock and I'm Cabinet Member for Community Wellbeing and Social Justice.
Good afternoon, Councillor Paul Papier, Cabinet Member for Education.
Yes, Leader, I'm here. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Jo Watkins, Leader of the Liberal Democrat Group.
Yes, County Councillor Paul Jordan. I'm Chair of the Economy and Development Select Committee, and I'll be having a few words on the Borough Theatre refurbishment programme.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm here also to speak about the Borough Theatre refurbishment. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you, Richard. We've all seen the harrowing images coming out of Afghanistan over the last few weeks as military forces withdraw from Afghanistan. Obviously, Councillor John will know that we met a few weeks ago and we agreed we wanted to show our support here in Monmouthshire for Afghan nationals as part of the Afghan relocation and assistance policy. Monmouthshire County Council and works jointly with Newport City Council to support the vulnerable people across the authorities with a small team. And can I just give thanks for the hard work of Shaz, Heather and the team on this matter. The team apply for funding from the UK government and then manage the budgets and expenditure as needed. There is sufficient capacity within the team to support 3 families over and above those already in the area, and the Home Office funding will facilitate the team to grow accordingly without additional staffing costs to the authority. Screening takes place on arrival, and they may also be experiencing trauma and other mental health issues. Since the agenda was circulated, we received a letter from the Home Office joint with the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government announcing an additional approach called the Afghan Citizens Resettlement Scheme. This new scheme prioritises those who have assisted the UK efforts in Afghanistan and stood up for values such as democracy, women's rights, freedom of speech and a rule of law. Vulnerable people, including women and girls at risk. Like the ARAP scheme, it grants immediate indefinite leave to remain, allowing them to benefit from all full rights and entitlements, providing the certainty and stability they need to build their life here in the UK. As a result, we propose an addition to the recommendation so that it covers both of these schemes. We also need to note a change to the resource paragraph of the paper. The letter we received confirms the financial support from the Home Office will increase from 10,500 to 20,500 per resettled person, which allows to plan and resource support for a longer period of time. The support packages for 2 schemes will now be aligned with support provided up to 3 years. They are seeking further offers of support. We've had a number of approaches from landlords to complement the 3 properties identified by our RSL partners and other housing officers. Those other housing officers assess each of these offers to assess the suitability against the Home Office requirements. Can I just say I'm overwhelmed by the number of offers from the general public, and we've also been offered considerable support from Abergavenny Town of Sanctuary. I would just like to reiterate the call to landlords who have larger properties in our town centres to come forward and offer these properties for these very much in need people. So thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much. And of all the reports we consider in these meetings, I mean, this is one of those that we are most proud to be associated with. This is the reason we come into local government, to make a difference to people's lives. The raise hand function has appeared in the chat bar if other colleagues want to come in. But firstly, can I ask Matthew Gatehouse, who's the author of the report, if there's anything you want to add, please?
Thanks very much for the opportunity, Leader. Matthew Gatehouse, Head of Policy. No, nothing further to add, other than just to sort of emphasise to members of the public that may be watching on the live stream, and also members of sort of opposition groups, that addition to the recommendation that Councillor Dimmock has announced has just been necessary because a letter has come in from the UK government this week after the agenda was circulated. So we weren't cited on that additional level of detail at the point the paper was written. But nothing further to add. And we also have Heather available on the call, that is our sort of connected communities manager across Newport and Monmouthshire, who's available if further questions of detail need her input.
Brill, thank you very much. That's really helpful. Are there any other? Yes, Bob, would you like to come in, please?
Yeah, thank you, Leader. It's really just to endorse this report and to say how pleased I am that we are taking this initiative. I have had, people have obviously heard already that we are proposing this, and I have had several comments that have said, well done, Monmouthshire, for doing this, and on behalf of the residents of Monmouthshire, we feel that you're doing the right thing. So I am very pleased that we are playing our part here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say, I feel really proud that I haven't had complaints from members of the public. I know in other parts of the country there have been people raising concerns. Well, are we doing enough to look after our own people as well? But these are people fleeing a really desperate situation, fleeing torture and death, and I think we can be really proud of the difference we're making to their lives. So really proud to be considering this report today. There are no other raised hands, so we'll move then to the recommendation then, which is that that the authority provides support for a number of families as part of the Afghan relocation and assistance policy, and works with partners to identify suitable accommodation in the county. The vote icon should have appeared on your screens, so can I ask Cabinet members to vote now, please? That's 8 in favour, that's unanimous. Thank you all very much. A really important report, and I'm really pleased we've been able to consider that today. Can we move now to the next item then, which is item 5 on the agenda, which is Borough Theatre Abergavenny Refurbishment Programme. And presenting this for us is Councillor Lisa Dimmock, please.
Oh, nice to be back so quickly. So this report is on the proposed investment for the much-loved Borough Theatre in Abergavenny in our market town. It's also known as the jewel in the crown. It was built in 1986 and has headlined groups like the Beatles and Pink Floyd. When the theatre returned to MCC in 2018, we reviewed all operations over a 6-month period, and it was approved by Cabinet to recruit a theatre manager, Dave Baxter, who's on here today, along with front of house supervisors. Since this new appointment, the team have worked with the Arts Council Wales to develop a sustainable plan for the theatre. Since I inherited this portfolio, we have met with user groups and provided a tour of the Borough Theatre. We also held a Q&A at County Hall, and I'd just like to thank everyone who attended these meetings and for feedback, and I'm really excited about continuing to work with the groups in the future. The theatre is in a poor state. It is not accessible for those with mobility issues, and the heating and cooling is inadequate, and we received a lot of customer feedback complaining about the lack of legroom. When we started carrying out the in-depth surveys of the Grade 2 listed building, the extent of the work developed. The refurbishment would see a beautiful theatre brought up to date, become more accessible for all, and would improve the customer experience, an improved venue for all our local and international performers. The new retractable seating, although it does decrease the seating, would allow for this space to be utilised for things like catwalk and cabaret. The team met contractor and the costs increased. This is mainly due to the global pandemic, local supply shortages, the Suez Canal issue, and some added value benefits like the cable runs. A similar project in Carmarthenshire also come out double the cost. So the total cost of refurbishment is now coming just short of 1.1 million. The current available budget stands at 309,624. Officers have identified the following funding: 175,000 for Welsh Government transforming town centres, 175,000 Monmouthshire match funding, and 100,000 from Monmouthshire County Council's Access for All, leaving a 278,000 shortfall to be secured. Kath and Dave have a meeting with Abergavenny Town Council this evening to discuss the refurbishment and any potential support with the Borough Theatre. If Abergavenny Town Council decide not to support us with the shortfall, they're looking at options through the excuse me. One moment. Sorry, through a loan. The theatre has huge value to the town, and it ties in nicely with other items on the agenda this afternoon. So I hope that Cabinet can support this today. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much. The author of the report is Kath Fallon. Kath, is there anything you'd like to add, please?
Thank you, Leader. Kath Fallon, Head of Enterprise and Community Animation. Nothing further really than to thank Councillor Dimmitt for a continuing support, particularly in terms of our engagement with the user groups. Her support has really been very much appreciated, not by ourselves and the team, and also our army of growing volunteers that we have, but also, you know, particularly by the user groups, and really appreciate her interest. So, no, nothing further to add at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, before I bring in Cabinet colleagues, I want to give our guests an opportunity to speak on this item. So, firstly, can I invite Paul Jordan, who's the Chair of the Economy and Development Committee, to speak, please. Paul.
Thank you, Leader. I'm the Chair of the Economy and Development Select Committee. This report came to the Select Committee on the 7th of September, and we had a thorough examination of the figures and detailed information from officers involved. There was cross-party support of the Council in respect of this project. Clearly no money has been spent on the Borough Theatre for at least 20 years, and it began to show. We're effectively halfway through this project. The seats have been removed, the foyer has been removed, the floors have been removed. Clearly funds have been identified, but there is this shortfall, and we wouldn't now want to spoil the ship for a hip of the tar. we've got somehow to find these funds. It may be through the assistance of Abergavenny Town Council paying interest on a public loan board facility, but whether the Town Council assists us or not, I feel that we have to, and the committee feels that we have to follow through on this project. It's a facility that is pivotal to the community of Abergavenny and indeed a wider area at all. Don't forget, it's a borough, it was the borough theatre, it's the county theatre. It serves not just Abergavenny, but Monmouth, Usk, Chepstow, Cardiff, etc. Certainly the committee is fully supportive of it, the town council is supportive of it, and there's cross-party support. So I hope the Cabinet will be able to support this project. Thank you very much, Leader.
Thank you very much, Paul. Next, can I invite Maureen Powell, who's a local member for Abergavenny, to contribute, please? Welcome, Maureen.
I should have said before that I'm the County Councillor for Castle Ward, which is part of the town of Abergavenny. I would just like to correct one thing. I think they mentioned it was built in 1986. That's when it was refurbished. I believe it was under the jurisdiction of Monmouth District Council for over 100 years. So I think it was built a lot longer ago than that, just to put that right. I feel very strongly about this. The theatre is such a beautiful building, and it's been a main attribute for Abergavenny, not just for Abergavenny amateur groups, but for professionals, for people from many other counties. We've had male voice choirs from all over Wales. We've had quite highly known professional groups, people that have put on plays. We have many amateur groups here. We've got the borough, we've got the Gwent Music, we've got the theatre groups, the adults and the juniors, and we have this King Henry VIII School put on their main item of the year when we don't have a pandemic, and other school children. And I think it's so important that we encourage this to happen. It's been an icon in this town. People have loved to come to it from all over the place, and it's always been well supported. I can see the advantage of having that open space. I know we'll lose some seats, but at least it can be used for different types of events, just in case we're not full up. But I do feel it's very important that we should support this. I know the money is difficult because very many things are becoming more expensive. It's getting hold of the goods that are needed to be used. It's the cost of the labour going up. There's a great deal of things to be taken into consideration. And I do hope that we can find the money by somewhere or other, even if we have to borrow it, because it would be so sad for something so important as this to just be left to witter away. So please give your support to the Borough Theatre in Abergavenny. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. That's a really valuable contribution. Next, I'm going to read a statement from Councillor Sheila Woodhouse that Sheila has asked me to read out on her behalf. And it goes as follows. Firstly, could I declare a personal non-prejudicial interest as a member of the amateur society that hires the Borough Theatre? It's unfortunate to see how costs of the project have escalated due to unforeseen circumstances. This theatre has played a most significant role in the cultural and social lives of the people of Abergavenny. It's vitally important that this refurbishment goes ahead. This theatre has been in constant use for over 100 years, and it's home to the oldest pantomime society in Wales. In wartime, it was used by an amateur dramatic company for rehearsals which included many servicemen based in the district, amongst them Richard Todd and Clive Dunn. In the 60s, among more famous people to visit were the Beatles, Lulu, Pink Floyd, Craig Douglas, Tom Jones, known then as Tommy Scott and Senators, John Barry, and many others. I don't know who some of these people are, sorry. It's now a key venue for the food festival, and frequent users include Abergavenny Amateur Operatic and Dramatic Society, both seniors and juniors, the Pantomime Company, previously mentioned, and other theatre groups. Abergavenny History Society, Abergavenny Borough Band. It's also used for charity concerts, as well as a full programme of guest visitors, including the late Rodney Bewes, the Quarrymen, Yolo Williams, Owen Money, and Sue Pollard, to name but a few. The theatre is blessed with many volunteers who between them have decades of service. They eagerly await the refurbishment. Many primary schools have held concerts there, and it's used for local Eisteddfod concerts. I hope this gives some idea of not only the theatre's wonderful past history, but of its importance today, and the opportunity to visit or perform at the venue must continue. This is the final part of the refurbishment of our historic town hall. The theatre is hugely popular and well used by both residents and visitors alike. Families enjoy a night out with a meal and a visit to the theatre. Visitors to the town are most impressed with our hospitality and range of independent shops. Many of them are frequent visitors, ensuring the theatre's major contribution to the town's prosperity. All of this enhances the vibrancy of Abergavenny, and I do most sincerely hope that members will be able to support this project. So I thank Councillor Sheila Woodhouse for that statement. And now can I invite Cabinet colleagues to contribute, please? Can I start with Bob, please?
Thank you, Leader. What it is to have a young leader who doesn't recognise all these names of famous people. We'll have to educate him a bit. And one of the names it didn't mention is Owen Money. Wales's own Owen Money has been there on a number of occasions. Yeah, all the words that have been said about the Borough Theatre are absolutely correct. It is a very important asset, principally for the town, but not only for the town, for the county as well. And it would be a shame if we didn't do this justice in the refurbishment. In fact, I think it was Lisa who said that it is the jewel in the crown. And it is the jewel, or it will be, but jewels have to sparkle. And the Borough Theatre is anything but sparkling at the moment. So we must find this extra money. Now, I do hope that the Town Council will be able to give us extra support, but it is going to be necessary for us as Monmouthshire County Council to also try and find some extra money as well. But I do hope that we can do it, because this is an asset for the future, and to do anything other than do this job properly should not be considered, despite the constraints that we are in at the moment in terms of funding. So I very much welcome this report. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Bob. Next, can I bring in Phil Murphy, please?
Yeah, that one's on. Bob's just said more or less what I was going to say, so I'll just reiterate that I very much hope that this can go ahead, and urge the Town Council in Abergavenny to give it their greatest consideration, because this really has to be a joint effort. So I keep my fingers crossed for a positive result tonight.
Brill, thank you, Phil. Next, can I bring in Councillor Jane Pratt, please?
Thank you very much, Leader, and I would just like to add to the comments that have already been made and say that, you know, this is such an important part of our culture, and we've all suffered during lockdown. We all love going to the theatre, we love singing, we love listening to music and also watching plays, and these pleasures have been completely denied us over the last 18 months. And the other thing that I really enjoy is when the groups put on the plays in the theatre, the Castle Theatre as well in the summer. So, you know, we really look forward to this refurbished theatre and to getting back to enjoying all these wonderful leisure activities that we used to have. So I fully support this. Thank you.
Brill, thank you. Can I thank everyone for those really valuable contributions? And can I come back to you, Lisa? Is there anything you'd like to say in summing up? Is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, can you see me now?
There you are. Yeah.
I just want to thank Dave and Kath for their hard work. They've been really supportive since they've taken over this portfolio, and they've worked really hard with me. So I just want to thank the both of them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you to you as well, Lisa, for leading this. It's as you say, it's the jewel in the crown, but we do need to give it its sparkle back. So we should do all we can to try to fund this, despite the very, very significant pressures we're facing as an authority. So let's visit the recommendations then, which are to support the proposed investment in the Borough Theatre in Abergavenny, whilst recognising the funding shortfall still to be met prior to presentation to full council for a final decision on the 23rd of September. And secondly, to recognise the meeting being held with Abergavenny Town Council later this evening to discuss the extended refurbishment project. So those are the two recommendations. The vote icon will be appearing on your screens. There it is, it's appeared now. Can I ask Cabinet members to vote now, please? And that's 8 votes in favour. That's unanimous. Thank you all very much. And can I thank our guests for their contributions today? We're really grateful. It's always particularly insightful when we can hear firsthand from select committees, but also from local members who've given us some detailed consideration. So thank you all very much. The next item on the agenda is number 6, which is regeneration projects and placemaking grant submission. And presenting that for us today is Councillor Sarah Jones, please.
Thanks, Richard. So you've got a report today, a really important report that covers a lot of ground, but fundamentally it's about providing you as Cabinet with an update on the Transforming Towns funding. So the programme opportunities, the funding opportunities under that vitally important piece of activity. It's also looking at considering the interim arrangements that relate to those trial reopening of town measures that we brought in earlier this year, and it's looking at an extension around that. So just to be clear then, in terms of the 3 recommendations from this report, it's about agreeing our prioritisation programme of activity, the submission to the placemaking grant, to note the governance or the operational arrangements that relate to that activity. And then, as I say, and Councillor Pratt will also come on this issue, is around agreeing the temporary trial reopening measures to stay in place for up to 18 months. And I think that's very important to stress that it's around up to 18 months with adjustments as appropriate and taking a flexible and tailored approach. Now, just to give you a bit of background, because it is a really important piece of work, we're all affected by what happens in our town centres, and we want to see them thrive and grow as we move out of this, hopefully out of this pandemic. Now, we've secured over £500,000 worth of placemaking grant through the Transforming Towns Fund. Now, we've match funded that, which brings it to just under £800,000. That's to be spent in this financial year, and this report gives you a list, it's in the appendices, in terms of the prioritisation of projects that that fund will match. And it also looks at indicative projects in the next financial year. Now, there's no guarantee, as always is the case, it comes in late in the day as to whether or not the Transforming Towns funding will be available in the next financial year. Signs are good, and we're really hopeful that we again get an opportunity to bid into a fund. But even if there isn't that available, by having this indicative timeline of projects, what that's doing is allowing us to have shovel-ready initiatives for when funding does become available. So I think it's really important that we're forward-thinking. What are the sort of projects that are going to future-fit our town centres? Now, we've also got revenue funding. So another element of the Transforming Towns is the revenue funding. £75,000 has been nominally allocated. And for that, we're proposing to develop a master plan for Chepstow. So we know Chepstow has lots of opportunity, but it also has some challenges. And we think a master plan would really help steer the direction for Chepstow Town Centre. And similarly, we're hoping to have a similar master plan for Monmouth and to commission something there as well. Those are our 2 priority areas for master planning, because some of our other towns have already got master plans in existence. And then the third key funding stream that we're looking at as part of this paper today is the Transforming Towns Business Fund. Now, this is a really important fund. There's 4 key initiatives that we've supplied in here. Difficult timescales to meet, so we've had to work quickly to build up these ideas. But because we work very closely in partnership with business groups and with our town councils, it's been quite a productive process, which has allowed us to arrive at these 4 different projects. And I'm sure Mark might touch on that, because I think we might have had some good news around that element already. And just to build on that point, there's been a huge amount of engagement over the summer. I can't underestimate the amount of engagement that happens in all of our towns. And each town is not a mirror copy of the other town. Each one has its own unique challenges and opportunities, and all of our approaches need to be tailored for each of those towns. Now, I chair the Business Resilience Forum, something that I know Councillor Greenland set up, and it was a brilliant initiative, which I truly believe has a massive role to play in the way in which we determine our approach to town centre planning going forward. And yesterday, the meeting again gave us some really useful food for thought in terms of what we need to consider going forward. And so just before I move into the interim arrangements, if you look at 3.10 to 3.12, those give you those sort of town centre specific regen priorities. I'm not going to list all those, but as I said, you'll notice that it's very tailored and very unique to each of the towns in terms of the type of approaches that we want to take. I'll talk a bit about managing the process. I'll be quick, but before I do that, I'll just hand over to Jane, because as I mentioned, the other element of this report is about extending the temporary, or rather bringing in up to 18 months of temporary order to allow us to continue those measures that we brought in during the reopening of the towns, potentially to extend them. As I say, Jane will cover this in a little bit more detail. This is not saying that we will extend those measures in every town for 18 months. It just gives us the flexibility to allow us to do that. Councillor Pratt, did you want to come in on that point?
Yeah, Jane.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Sarah. And I would like to just endorse everything that Sarah's already explained. I just want to touch on the traffic orders, and the options appraisal, which is number 5 in the pack, does explain in detail that these experimental traffic orders are an interim measure to allow the trial measures to be thoroughly tested for up to 18 months while permanent solutions are identified, designed and consulted on. And this also gives authorisation for our Chief Officer Enterprise to make adjustments to the trial measures. The other thing that I'd like to point out is that the trial measures might be perceived as having been made permanent, but they haven't been. These are temporary trial measures, and they're in place to support our town centres, and we want to thoroughly test them. And it's very important that we, continue to support business and see growth and resilience in our town centres. And we will, set up quarterly review meetings, at least quarterly review meetings with county councillors, town and community councillors, Chamber of Commerce, business reps and local people, so that we can really work with them to do the very best thing that we can for their town. And the trial measures will continue to be adjusted as needed in response to that community feedback. And they can be removed if insurmountable problems arise, and we feel that a completely different way forward is required. So I just really wanted to make it very clear that this is really very technical. We have to have these traffic orders in place. The current ones are coming to an end, and this temporary traffic orders last for up to 18 months. Thank you very much, Leader.
Well, thank you. Was there anything you wanted to add to that, Sarah?
And Councillor Pratt has, very adequately put the point around those temporary measures that potentially, we'll consider now. But can I just say, in terms of that managing the process as we go forward, this directorate is very ably led by Mark Hand, and he's got a great team working cross-directorate on a lot of these issues. So when you're looking at the funding bids, for example, how that brings in, we only have to look at our Business Resilience Forum to see the different directorates within our council that all come together with businesses to ensure that we're making the right decisions for them. But just to also say, we've got 2 excellent project managers now, and this report gives you the town which they're responsible for. So both Jane and Daniel have been making great strides in terms of the engagement with business and communities in towns. And Roger also has got a really critical role going forward in terms of strategic projects, as we know, through levelling up, etc. So if I just conclude, Leader, if that's all right, just to say, very strong team. We're listening to business, we're listening to residents. That's what's formulating these projects that are coming forward for funding. it is really difficult and challenging decisions to make, because there are always going to be opposing views on how we manage our town centres. But everything we do is done looking at the future. It's about how do we encourage people to spend their time in our towns, spend the money in our towns, and how do we build in active travel and sustainable development principles to make sure that they're future fit. And I truly believe that town centres are at the heart of our communities, and that the measures and the funding that we're applying for will really help make sure that we have high streets and town centres that are fit for the future. So thanks, Leader. That's all from me.
Brill, Sarah and Jane, thank you very much. That's really positive report, and as you say, it gives us quite a bit of flexibility in terms of making sure we're doing everything we can to support our town centres. Next, can I invite Mark Hand, the author of the report, to add anything? Mark, is there anything you'd like to add?
Hi, Leader. Hi, members. Good afternoon. No, thanks. I don't think there is anything I need to add at this stage. I think Councillors Jones and Pratt have covered all the main points, but I'm happy to remain and answer any questions if Cabinet or other members have any. Thanks, Leader.
Brill, thank you very much, Mark, and very grateful to officers for the work they've done on this report. Can I bring in Councillor Bob Greenland, please?
Thank you, Leader. I just want to fully endorse this report, and I want to thank Sarah and Jane for the continued work that they're doing in this, as well as, of course, all our officers led by Mark. There is no doubt that our town centres should be the hubs of activity in our county. But it's not just the pandemic that has caused a downturn. It was happening before the pandemic, and the increased activity from online shopping has made life very difficult from some of our town centres. And I am firmly of the belief that we have to reimagine some of the uses that our town centres are put to. And in that way, we need to make them much more comfortable, much more pleasant places for people not just to pop in and make the odd purchase and go back out again, but for people to visit and spend time in, to meet friends, do whatever they want to do, as well as, of course, of finding the pleasure in actually shopping in actual shops rather than online as well. And that is why it is so important that we support this initiative, and we work very hard to find new opportunities for our town centres to flourish and remain the hubs that we want them to be for our communities. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much. Next, can I bring in Councillor Paul Pavia, please?
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, I just obviously thank the Cabinet member for bringing forward this report. As a Chepstow member, I think it's absolutely right to align the various project streams and ensure there's that strategic alignment with the various things that are going on in and around Chepstow and the Lower Wye at the minute. The report highlights that all too well. We want to ensure that our long-term objectives align with the aspirations of residents and businesses in all our towns, but from my perspective, particularly Chepstow. I understand in terms of the extension on the traffic orders, it gives us the flexibility across all our towns. I will say in Chepstow that I think we do need to separate COVID restrictions from our long-term planning and regeneration objectives. We're seeing across not just authorities in Wales, but England and elsewhere, COVID restrictions are being repealed, and I think that's absolutely right. It is endemic. There's no getting away from it. I know all too well. I've got COVID at the minute and isolating. Some of my household have had it, others haven't. And I was in a different conversation with Cabinet leaders for education earlier on about the pros and cons of sending non-COVID members of the household into schools. There's no getting away from it. It is here. It is here to stay. In terms of Chepstow, I don't think the measures have been that successful. You know, I'd like to see them repealed as soon as possible. I think that is the right way to go. It doesn't negate us from having those conversations with the town council and other representations of the town. But I think we need to go back to a status quo which allows traffic to flow through the high street until we can have those conversations and a long-term plan can be found. But I understand, you know, it does give us the sort of strategic view to have those flexibilities in place. So, you know, I will be supporting that, but I would urge you know, the cabinet member for highways to, you know, let's sit around the table with Chepstow Town Council very soon, because I think the restrictions in terms of Chepstow need to go. Thanks, Leah.
Thank you, Paul. We certainly wish you and your family well for a full recovery from COVID. Next, can we turn to Councillor Penny Jones, please?
Yes, you can. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I endorse this report given a degree of flexibility. The measures are like Marmite, love it or hate it, but it gives us the opportunity to listen to the supporters of both sides so that measures can be adjusted if required in response to members and communities' feedback. But overall, I thoroughly endorse this report. Thank you.
Brill, thank you very much. Reflecting on that discussion, I don't know if you want to make any closing remarks, Sarah or Jane?
Yeah, if I
Sarah.
Firstly, because it was remiss of me, can I just thank Councillor Jordan and the Economy and Development Select Committee for their comments as well, because you know, I understand the important role that scrutiny plays as part of this, and they've always had a valuable contribution to policy formulation and to obviously scrutinising the decisions we make. And just to pick up on a couple of those points, though, absolutely, in terms of Penny's absolutely right, this is about making flexible adjustments as and where are needed. And I totally understand Paul's concerns. You know, he's very close to the community. He has great links with the town council and the businesses. So we'll always be keen to keep that dialogue going and make decisions rapidly when we need to. So we'll continue those conversations. I'm sure Jane would echo those comments. And just finally to say, I think Councillor Greenland really hit the nail on the head. This is absolutely about putting communities at the heart of our town centres. Town centres are not going to continue in the existence in what we've already known. Retail is never going to now be the core contributor to our high street. It's going to be part of a mix, and that mix has to be about putting the community at the heart of the decisions that are made. And I think we're very much ahead of the curve when it comes to that process. So I'm very proud of the work that's going on, and fully endorse the report to Cabinet for approval.
Thank you very much. And Jane?
Thank you very much, Leader. And of course, Paul, Councillor Pavio, be very happy to meet up with you and other members of your community. And as I've already stated, you know, these are temporary measures, and as it states quite clearly in the report, that they can be removed if insurmountable problems arise, and very happy to meet up with you at the earliest opportunity once you're 100% fit and well. Thank you very much, Leader.
Thank you all very much. So we'll move to the vote in a couple of moments. First, I'll just remind you of the recommendations that we're voting on then, which are firstly to agree to the prioritisation of regeneration activity throughout the county and endorse the proposed placemaking grant submission for this year of just under £800,000 made under the Welsh Government's Transforming Towns funding, and to endorse the indicative programme for the next financial year, noting the project and funding balance may change due to the prioritisation of deliverability. Secondly, to note the operational programme management arrangements that will be implemented for regeneration that will monitor and oversee the projects within that programme. And finally, to agree that the temporary trial reopening towns measures listed in the report under paragraph 3.11 remain in place for up to 18 months, while long-term options are designed and consulted upon, albeit that trial measures may continue to be adjusted in response to member and stakeholder feedback, and to continue to authorise the Chief Officer for Enterprise to make any adjustments to the temporary trial measures as deemed necessary, but in consultation with relevant Cabinet members and ward members in response to feedback. Those are the three recommendations. Can I ask Cabinet members to vote now, please? on 7 votes. Can everyone try once more just to check it's clocked it?
It was 9 last time, Chair.
So that's unanimous in favour. We'll move then to the next report, which is item 7, the Placemaking Wales Charter. And presenting this for us is Councillor Sarah Jones.
Great, thanks, Leader. Okay, so this is a neat segue into the next report. So this is looking at the placemaking charter. We're seeking endorsement from Cabinet. The MCC becomes a signatory of the Placemaking Wales Charter. Now, this charter is looking to ensure that signatories placemaking beyond just land use planning. It's about looking at all those multiple areas across local government and ensuring that we put sustainable placemaking practices right at the heart of that policy process. Now, we're being asked to sign as a whole organisation, so this charter isn't about us as a local planning authority. As I say, it's about that cross-directorate approach. And at the moment, we have 2 councils across Wales already signed up, I believe Swansea and Newport, but there's also a whole host of other public bodies and other organisations such as the WLGA, Pobl, Home Builders Federation, etc. So lots of interest in the placemaking charter, and I think it's a key time now for us to endorse and support and become a co-signatory. I think the key message from the Charter is needing to ensure that the 6 placemaking principles that are listed, I won't go through them in 4.2, that they're considered, as they say, in all the policy making decisions we make, and that the principles are promoted through our planning, design and our management of new and existing places. As I say, it's a multidisciplinary approach. It already works well. It aligns with the approach that we take as a council towards working in collaboration and in partnership, and in terms of the way in which we deliver on sustainable development goals. And indeed, there's a big list in this document, but I'll just pick up on a few. There's a number of initiatives and examples that we've got as a council, which already embraces the concept of placemaking. So the move towards a regional PSB, a public service board approach, our declaration of a climate emergency, our revision of the local development plan, our support for active travel and the delivery of that, and really importantly, and one that's an excellent example, is the Regeneration Master Plan for Caldicot, where that's actually been identified as a key case study in the Charter itself. So I'd like to think we're already a bit ahead of the game with this. We're very much innovating and ensuring that placemaking is already part of our processes right across directorates. So, Leader, in conclusion, I can keep this short because I think it's a really positive document for us to support and sign up to. The signing of this provides us with that opportunity to confirm our commitment to delivering quality places and to really, again, cement us as having a role in the health and well-being of our communities.
Excellent, thank you very much. The author of this report is Mark Hand. Is there anything you'd like to add, Mark?
Thanks, Leader. Only really briefly, just to endorse really what Councillor Jones has said. I think the council's already making strides in achieving placemaking in its work for the examples given and more. And I just think the concept aligns perfectly really with the council's core purpose around building sustainable, resilient communities. So I think it does align really neatly with the activity that's already happening and with the direction of travel and our ambitions as an authority. So I hope that it can be supported, and I think it should be sort of a relatively simple process for us to continue to embrace, really. Thanks, Leader.
Thank you very much. The raise hand icon is on the screen if any Cabinet members want to come in. Can I invite Phil Murphy to speak, please?
Oh, it's on again. No, this is really only building on what we're already doing. I think it's a fine initiative, and I'm happy to support it.
Brill, thank you very much. Is there anything you'd like to say to sum up, Sarah?
No, Leader, I fully endorse it, and as a Cabinet member, I think it's really important that we show as a local authority that we're embracing this, even though I think we're doing it already, and a lot of what we already do. I think it's great to show that we're championing placemaking as a key component of our policy making.
Absolutely, thank you. So we'll move to the vote then on the recommendation that Monmouthshire County Council becomes a signatory to the Placemaking Wales Charter. And the vote icon has now appeared. So can I ask Cabinet members to vote now, please? That's 8 votes in favour. That's unanimous. Thank you all very much. The next item on the agenda is number 8, which is the County Council's Code of Corporate Governance 2020. And presenting this report is Councillor Bob Greenland.
Thank you, Leader. The Council is required to approve the Code of Corporate Governance. Now, this has already been considered by the, well, what used to be known as the Audit Committee. I think it's now known as the Governance and Audit Committee. And it is a requirement that we approve this each year, and the committee has endorsed it for Cabinet approval. Now, what the code does is to set out the way in which the Council should behave and should govern itself and act. And if you look at paragraph 5.1, it shows the principles that are behind this, and I think if you read through that, you would agree with all of that. So our purpose today is simply to approve this annual statement and to move forward in the way that we work in accordance with this. So I think that's all I want to say. I think actually Andrew Watham, who's the author of the report, will be with us. I don't know whether Andrew would want to add anything.
Thank you, Bob. Andrew, do you want to add anything to that?
Catherine Leader, members. Andrew Wathen, Chief Internal Auditor. Thank you, Councillor, for presenting the report. Just to say that corporate governance is not just an audit code, it's not just a finance code, it is organisational wide, and it does relate to both officers and members in terms of demonstrating good governance across the board in the work that we undertake. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much. The raise hand icon is on the screen if any members want to come in. I can't see any raised hands. Was there anything you wanted to say to sum up, Bob?
No, not really. I think that Andrew has said it all, Leader. Okay,
so we shall move to the vote then. And the recommendation is that we formally approve the Council's updated Code of Corporate Governance. Can I ask members to all vote now, please? That's unanimous. Thank you all very much. And the final item on today's agenda is the Welsh Church Fund Working Group. And presenting that for us is Councillor Phil Murphy.
Yes, thank you, Leader. There's only 3 applications on this particular report today. St Matthew's Church in Monkswood were requesting £2,000 funding assistance for an archaeological investigation of human remains following restoration work on the west wing of the church. The committee resolved to recommend £1,400 to provide for that work. The United Reformed Church requested £1,000 for repair of stained glass windows in that listed church. The recommendation was for £750. And Caldicott Walking Football Club requested £1,020 for football equipment to be used by the Walking Football Club to increase mobility and diversity for the population of Caldicott. The recommendation was £320 towards that. So that was the end of the applications for this particular period, Leader.
Thank you very much. The author's Dave Jarrett. Dave, was there anything you wanted to add? If not, we'll move to. Okay, so we'll move to cabinet members. The raise hand icon is up. Bob Greenland, would you like to come in, please?
Yes, just a point of clarification. It does say United Reformed Church. It doesn't say which one and where it is. It would be useful to know, Chair.
No problem. I'm sure we can we can find that information and share it following the meeting. I can't see any other contributors, so we'll move then to the vote on the recommendation then that we make the following grants, we award the following grants as per the schedule of applications, which is set out in 2.1, so to St Matthew's Church, Monkswood, United Reformed Church and Caldecott Walking Football Club. Can I ask members to vote now, please, on those three awards? And that's unanimous as well. 8 votes in favour. Well, thank you all very much. Can I thank members and officers for all the work that's gone into these reports we've considered today. We're really grateful for the volume of work that's gone into that. I'm also grateful to the guests who've joined us today. Thank you very much. Our next meeting is at 3 o'clock on Wednesday, the 6th of October. So we look forward to seeing you all then. Until then, thank you all very much for joining us and have a good afternoon.